How do you let go of fears? Fears are everywhere. They bubble up. They come at us. They can give us a physical reaction. Maybe it makes our heartbeat go faster. Our breathing starts to speed up. Maybe our stomachs turn. And how do we deal with the fears that really, you know what? They go unrealized. They're unnecessary. All they do is keep us from having more peace in our lives. The very wise Yoda says, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. So how do we let go of fears? How do we keep them from consuming our lives or taking up way too much more time than just an instant, and then it goes on? We get some wisdom from Proverbs 29:25 when it says, people are trapped by their fears of others. Those who trust in the Lord are secure. So first we have to identify, what are we actually afraid of? What are those fears? According to Proverbs, right? People are trapped by their fears of others. What are the fears of others that we have? What are the fears that we have within us that are getting in our way? And then we get this sense of, okay, if we can identify them, now we can begin to address them. The writer Judy Blume says, each of us must confront our own fears. We must come face to face with them. How we handle our fears will determine where we go with the rest of our lives, to experience adventure or to be limited by the fear of it. So once we identify those, once we come face to face with them, then secondly, it's a question of where we put our confidence, right? Okay, how are we going to address that? And Proverbs is like, it says, those who trust the Lord are secure. So think about it like this. Where we put our confidence. Are we confident that God's love is bigger than our fear? Are we confident that God's guidance will get us through that fear? Are we confident that God's peace is surrounding us if we will just take time to notice? Are we confident enough that God's presence is with us, in us, is willing to strengthen us, will be ever present, never going to leave us, to the point where we're like, you know what, I can set aside that fear? Do we have enough confidence in God, in God's love for us, in God's desire for us to have more peace and joy in our lives, that we can go, you know what, I'd rather focus on that than the fears that are bubbling up. I'd rather replace that with thinking about God's will than all the fears coming at me. So here's a moment of really challenging ourselves of where do we put our confidence? What are we willing to focus upon that is of God's goodness, God's peace, the things that are connected to God? And are we willing to set aside those fears and go, you know what? That's not so important anymore. That's not a priority for me to focus upon. I'd rather focus upon. It's a practice, right? So what we're talking about is a practice of letting go, a practice of refocusing ourselves on God's goodness, on God's peace, how God is going to get us through, of following God, of listening for God. Pray with me. God of compassion, everywhere we turn, there are new opportunities to be fearful of what is next, of how will we get through it, of being focused on what could go wrong and everything we wish was different. Help us, oh God, to lay aside those fears and focus upon your peace, how you will lead us through, how you will strengthen us for our day. May we let go of those fears that drain us so we can be filled with your energy and goodness this day. Amen.